The following is a special presentation of Time Warner Sports 26.
There's a place for all our heroes. It's called the Hall of Fame. The greats of sports are honored here for the way they played the game. As we count their contributions, we feel so very proud. We won't forget how much they gave and how they pleased the crowd. When the glory years are over and playing days are past, we'll preserve those memories as long as sports fans last. Our torch is lit forever and brightly burns the flame, a tribute to our legends who are in our Hall of Fame.
From Drumlin's Golf Club, it's the 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Time Warner Sports 26. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our magnificent celebration. Tonight, we induct 6 accomplished individuals into our prestigious Hall of Fame. Syracuse and the greater Syracuse area carries with it a rich tradition of excellence in sports. Tonight's honorees have brought such distinction to their community, their sports, and to themselves. Saluting them is not only appropriate, it is absolutely necessary. Tonight, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame becomes even greater. Please allow me to introduce our distinguished head table. From St. Matthew's Parish in East Syracuse, Monsignor Frank Sammons. Onondaga County Executive Nick Pirro. Representing baseball's Dutch Dotterer, his son Michael Dotterer. Also from the world of baseball, Dave Levanchik. Basketball great Roy Neal. The president of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, John Rathbun. From the sport of soccer, Joe Papaleo. Representing sports administrator Frank Randall, Frank's granddaughter, Bunny Allen. The commissioner of the Syracuse Parks Recreation and Youth Programs, Pat Driscoll. And Paralympic cyclist Kathy Urschel. It is now time to begin our induction ceremony. Each inductee will be introduced by videotape. We will then hear from each honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, our first inductee, Dutch Dotterer. Is the name Dotterer synonymous with baseball? Could be. There was Henry John Dutch Dotterer, a local star of the Diamond who joined our Hall of Fame in 1992. And how about Tom Dotterer, another baseball whiz who still coaches Christian Brothers Academy teams? And tonight's newest Dotterer to be honored, Dutch's son, the late John Henry Dutch Dotterer Jr. Dutch the Younger was born in Syracuse in 1930 and grew up on Grant Boulevard, just a pop fly from old MacArthur Stadium. He played catcher for Christian Brothers Academy and later at Syracuse University. He did his due diligence in the minors, starting with Lockport of the old Pony League. Then it was on to Ogden, Burlington, Nashville, Memphis, Havana, and a couple years of service in the U.S. Army. Finally, he made the majors in 1957 when he caught for the Cincinnati Reds. He spent 4 seasons in Ohio, then 1 with the Washington Senators.
My brother had great arm. What's considered to be probably next to Sam Mealy, who at that time was an outfitter, I think, for the Washington Senators. My brother was considered in publications, word of mouth, as having, a great arm. And, as I say, I can remember only as a little boy. It didn't take much to sting a little boy's hand, but I can remember, as I said to begin with, hurting me in my hand.
Remember the catcher who once caught a ball dropped from a helicopter flying 585 feet above Crosley Field? That was our very own Dutch. But here's one you probably don't remember. Dutch was the only player ever to hit a Grand Slam home run off the great Dodger pitcher, Sandy Koufax. Another feat performed by Dutch was a pair of pinch-hit home runs. They won ball games against Warren Spahn.
Well, he was a hard, determined, everyday player. He went out, and when he stepped across those lines, he was ready to play ball. When he got off the lines, he would be a great storyteller, a great person that I admired greatly. Talked with him many, many hours on Syracuse baseball history that pertained to him, his father, his family, and other teams in Syracuse.
Dutch wound up his baseball career back home in Syracuse for his final 2 seasons, 1961 and 62. Dutch passed on in 1999 and is buried near his father in Assumption Cemetery, not too far from his boyhood home and site of the old MacArthur Stadium. With pride, we welcome to the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, Henry John Dutch Dotterer Jr., class of 2005. Accepting for Dutch Dotterer, his son, Michael.
Thank you very much, Doug. Good evening. I want to thank Ron Gershbacher and my Uncle Tom for doing a great job on the clip. I'd never seen that picture of my father. I think he was catching. It looked like there was both. It looked like a Cincinnati Red hitter was up there. But anyway, on behalf of my father, I want to thank the entire Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame committee for honoring this most distinguished class of 2005. I also want to mention that I see some young lads out in the audience, and my cousin Henry is here, and that's Tom's son, and he encouraged me a few years ago to go to Toastmasters, and you'll probably find tonight that I didn't take his advice. But I do encourage you, because all of us, they say one of the greatest fears is getting up and giving a talk. And I'm not supposed to do that because I think I'm supposed to, it's 2 minutes to thank everybody that my father wants to thank. So, and for a daughter or descendant to talk for just 2 minutes, very difficult. First and foremost, my dad would want me to thank his wife, Nari, who cannot be here tonight. Nari went through the terrible Holocaust in Cambodia and came over here, and she wanted to send her best wishes and good prayers as we celebrate this evening. He'd also like to thank my brother Dara for coming over from Albany, and he would say how proud he was of his accomplishments in school and climbing the corporate ladder at U-Haul. He'd say he'd missed seeing his grandson Michael sigh and hoped that he was doing well in school in California. Dad would then go on and first and foremost thank his late mother, Catherine Bradshaw, whom he loved so dearly, and his father, Henry, who you saw on the tape, and many of you know was inducted back in 1992. He would also want to send his love and thanks to his daughter and my sister, Margot, who couldn't be here tonight, and for bringing him 2 wonderful grandchildren, Alex and Avery. Dad would also want to thank his sister Nan and brother-in-law Bill, who are here tonight with, yes, their 10 children, and good Irish Catholic, my grandmother, and many of my cousins are here this evening. I was going to name them all, but I probably got 30 seconds left. And I'm losing my track here. So, if you knew my dad, you knew that he loved to talk about politics and religion. And I'm sure he would have probably had a longer baseball career if he had just listened to his mother and what most parents tell their children: avoid politics and religion as a dinner topic. But to know my dad was to love him. He was bold and not afraid to speak his mind, and what he believed in his heart was the truth. My dad loved wisdom, and he always was happy to share with some story about his hero, Albert Einstein. He imparted onto all of us that knew him that conviction in one's beliefs and sharing ideas would make us better in a more tolerant, compassionate nation. My father would also want me to thank his brother Tom and sister-in-law Joanne and niece Bridget. Dad would certainly use this occasion to let all of you know that his brother Tom should also join him and his father in this prestigious Hall of Fame as one of the best high school baseball coaches to ever serve in the state of New York. He has over 400 victories on the diamond at Christian Brothers Academy, not to mention his many contributions to the community in the 10 years as a professional baseball player. Simply put, Uncle Tom's spirit and commitment to our youth, like so many of the honorees this evening, make Syracuse the great city that it is today. Uncle Tom, we just need to keep you safe and out of the Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota. And many of you might know what I mean by that. Dad would also like to thank his nephew Henry and say how proud he was for building the largest translation community and company on the internet today, and for coming back to Syracuse and headquartering pros.com in Syracuse. In fact, my cousins Kathy, Pat, and Maria, all who are here tonight, are making it a family affair. Dad would also like to thank his nephew Anthony for all his great carpentry work at his Bear Street bookstore that he so cherished. Thank you, Anthony. And Patrick, who's in Argentina running pros.com in South America. Last but certainly not least, my father would say tonight how much he loved his friends. I believed he'd first thank his best friend and the great Syracuse Hall of Famer. He referred to him as Simmy, whom many of you know as Roy Simmons Jr., for all the wonderful times that they had at the Deke House in 1950, his wife Nancy, their son and current SU coach Roy III. Dad will not fail to mention Simmy's great artistic works that bless this hall today, and his many long-lasting contributions to Syracuse University and the great sport of lacrosse, which happens to be the fastest growing sport in my state of California today, is lacrosse. Dad would also like to thank his childhood friends, which include the great Syracuse Hall of Famer Tex Simone, who spotted him early as a pretty good catcher from the north side. He'd also like to thank his son John Simone for all his good work with the Syracuse Chiefs and for the wonderful seats that he never had to ask for. Thank you, John. Dad would also like to thank his good friend Rocky Phalens, who's here tonight, Joe Nesci, Louis Pasquarelli, Bobby Frusciani, Tom Capoletti, John Capoletti, Frank Capoletti, all here. Thank you. And again, John Maya, thank you for coming out from Utica. And finally, there's no way that I can leave out one of my dad's best friends when he came back, Dick Allen, and his wife Louise, whom many of you know as one of the great auctioneers in upstate New York. Lulu and their children Carl, Richie, Terry, and Kelly, who hopefully are watching live tonight on Time Warner Cable. And boy, did my dad love to go to Dick's famous local pizzeria, Gregorio's. And he ate and ate and ate. My dad loved to eat. He loved food. He was an Epicurean. Thanks, Dick and Lulu, for making my father so happy toward the end of his day. Finally, my dad would encourage me to thank those that have helped this entire event. Bill Lamont, thank you for guiding me through this whole Hall of Fame process and for being patient with me as I grappled with the understanding of this special evening. Thanks also go out to John Rathbrun for leading this wonderful organization, and finally to Madge Wells for taking time out to send me a picture of my dad and her having a lot of fun back in the day. Finally, I know my dad is looking down from above and saying, Michael, you forgot to mention my cousin and my friend and the sports writer Bob, who wrote about your football days at Stanford, Bob Snyder, when the band came on the field. Well, Dad, I did the best I could. I only have a few seconds left, so please, if I left any of you out, please come up, and I'd love to meet you. And I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. God bless.
Thank you, Michael. John, welcome to the Judge of Hall of Fame. We're really proud of you.
Oh, here we go.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Everybody, I should hold this up. Everyone, at the conclusion of their speech, gets a beautiful framed picture, and it's something very, very special. No Toastmasters, and you were that good. That's terrific. Did a wonderful job, Michael. Our second inductee is Dave Lemanchik. Do you remember what your yearbook said about you? Dave Lemanchik does. His West Hill High School yearbook captioned his picture this way: "Rough is the road that leads to the heights of greatness." Dave traveled those roads. They were rough, but they really did lead to a satisfying career for this talented athlete. A baseball and basketball star at Hartwick College, Dave's pitching prowess was noticed by Hartwick's great coach, Hall of Famer and SU grad Jim Constanti, who urged Dave to give pro ball a try. The rough professional road took Dave to Canada, where he played for London, Guelph, and Milford. In 1972, he was drafted by Detroit and began his climb up the Tiger ladder. Lakeland, Toledo, Montgomery, Evansville. His most memorable minor league game was an 80-pitch no-hitter against Asheville. That was the same season he came home to Syracuse and shut out our Chiefs on a 6-hitter at Big Mac. In 1977, Toronto landed a slot in the American League, and Dave was drafted from Detroit. He survived the Blue Jays' ineptness and became the team's ace with 13 wins, a major league record for an expansion team pitcher.
He did a lot of great things, really. He pitched back-to-back 11-inning games with only 2 days rest in between. I think it was on the 14th and 17th of the month, and he won 11 both times. Of course, today, guys don't even pitch with 2 days rest. Hell, most of them don't pitch with 3 days rest. He goes 11 back-to-back. So he was a big, tough guy.
2 years later, he made the American League All-Star team. He also pitched a one-hitter against the Rangers. His playing career ended the next season, 1980, when he retired after being traded to the Angels. He stayed in the game as an evaluator for the Yankees for 2 more years. Dave now operates a baseball training camp and school on Long Island. He and his wife Joan have 2 sons, Dave and Matt. He comes home to Syracuse frequently, especially for the Sky Chiefs old-timer games. You'll see his 2001 induction photo on the Syracuse Baseball Wall of Fame at Alliance Bank Stadium. And tonight, he joins another elite group as the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame welcomes Dave Lemanchik, class of 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Lemanchik.
Before I really get started, I have my mom, my dad, my brothers, my 2 sons, my wife. I have high school teammates. I have some college teammates. And yeah, things haven't changed. I'm not prepared. I have no notes, didn't write a speech, don't really care. You know me. All right? I'm here. I'm going to shoot from the hip. I congratulate the class, and I also congratulate the past inductees. This really won't hit me for a couple of days, probably won't hit me for a year. I still think I'm half asleep. I will wake up one day and realize how fortunate we are to be in a position to do something like this. While we were playing, all of us, especially myself, I just enjoyed the play. I really enjoyed playing. Most people say they miss their teammates. I do, but teammates are replaced by other teammates. You know, it's surprising that when you take the field, I miss a baseball field. All right. In fact, I miss a baseball field so much. I really stopped playing about 5 years ago. I played until I was 50. All right. Retired from the major leagues at 30. Now, don't feel bad for me. I had, let's see, 6 herniated discs, bone spur in the 7th, 3 minor tears in my rotator cuff, 3 bone chips in my left elbow, 1 bone chip in my right elbow, a bad right knee, and now I'm getting a headache from the price of oil. But other than that, all right, your body will heal if you give it a chance to heal. And because I retired, my kids were a little bit older, told my wife, you know, I've had enough of this. Then I went to work for the Yankees. Funny thing, when I got signed, 1972, and some of my high school teammates are here to verify this, we went to Old MacArthur Stadium to watch the Chiefs play prior to the June free agent draft. And as we watched the Chiefs play, I don't even remember who they were playing. Dave, wouldn't it be awesome if someday you came here and pitched at MacArthur Stadium? I couldn't even fathom it. Couldn't even fathom it. Didn't even know if it was a possibility, because we're putting the cart in front of the horse. All of a sudden, the draft comes. Tigers pick me 17th round. I go to Lakeland, Florida, pitch there for 6 weeks. 7 weeks later, guess where I am? Playing for Toledo, pitching against the Chiefs at Old MacArthur Stadium. All right? I go out there. Tax, I have to apologize. I don't think you ever beat me. I think I beat you every time I pitched against you. I apologize for this. If I had known about this night 30 years ago, I would have let you score more runs. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. Anyways, every time I came back, people were they welcomed me. My friends came out. We enjoyed ourselves. It was a tremendous blessing and a great career. I left the game at 30, came home. At 37 years old, I broke the news to my wife. I read in the Sports Illustrated article, we have an over 30 league on Long Island. They're having tryouts at a high school. I'm thinking about going. She goes, you're out of your mind. Look at you. You can barely walk. You can't get out of bed. God knows you can't throw a ball anymore. You're going to embarrass yourself. And they're going to think that you're a real good player, and all of a sudden they're going to go, you stink. You're horrible, because you're going to be competing against people that at least are in good shape. I said, no, I'm going, and you can't stop me. So I go out to this tryout. There's literally 250 people trying out. They're going to have a draft after this tryout. I don't even have to try out. Don't put my spikes on. Don't get loose. Don't stretch out. Commissioner of the league comes over to me and he goes, you're the #1 pick. I go, excellent. Meet my manager. Everything's cool. Now I have to come home, face the music. You know, I got to talk to the boss now. So I come in, you know, chest is out. She goes, how did it go? I go, well, I'm okay. You sore? You hurt? No, surprisingly. I really didn't have to do anything. She goes, what do you mean you didn't have to do anything? Well, I met the manager of the team. He had the #1 pick. He picked me. She looked at me and she goes, you're an idiot. I go, why? Don't you know you've been around sports your whole life? The worst team gets the first pick. Aren't you sick and tired of playing on bad teams? This is what I live with, all right? I played for 14 years, snuck out of the house for 14 Sundays, 14 Sundays, all summer, pitched another 1,500 innings, Had a great time, and it wasn't for my team. I love my teammates, but I really love to play. Really love to play. Enjoy the game. Like, you just, I think it's really helped me in dealing with the kids that I do every day and teaching them the game and how to play the game and what it means to play the game. Not just go out on the field, get hit, throw a ball, catch it, you know, what it really means to play. Discipline yourself, the etiquette that we show on the field, the understanding of the game, the possibilities that can happen that you have to be prepared for, and how you have to accept the good and the bad. And you have to be able to live with it and prepare for the next day. It's all preparation. It's not how good you are. It's how well you're prepared. So if we take our young people of today and prepare them for every day of their lives, they're going to be better off tomorrow than they were yesterday, as long as we teach them to prepare. It's not success or failure, it's preparing. They have to prepare to succeed, and most of them don't. And I'm glad I have a part of teaching people how to prepare to succeed in baseball, because I see it carrying over. Now, before I leave, last person. I've kind of put this off, but I can't put it off any longer. When I met my wife in college, she took a very raw, athletic, I was actually an animal on the field. I was an animal on the court, and I was an animal on the field, and I was probably a semi-animal when I played football. And it was hard to take this animal and teach him any social grace whatsoever. All right? I had no grace. I didn't care. Doesn't bother me. I'll do what I want to do. If you don't like it, too bad. I got enough friends. I don't need more friends. That was my attitude. That was my attitude, all right? Now, she took this raw piece of clay, and she molded me into something that was a little more human, all right? I became a little more human and a little bit more compassionate. And one of the most important things that she taught me was to be gracious enough when you're speechless to say, thank you.
Very, very good. Congratulations, Dave. Well, we're off and running. The 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Sports 26 right after this timeout. Thank you. The Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame has an exciting new feature thanks to the legacy of the late Hirsch Green and the generosity of his family, who have donated Hirsch's brilliant sports photographs to our new museum. Hirsch, a distinguished Syracuse attorney, took pictures all over the world, animals, people, nature, but his real passion was sports photography. A decorated World War II bomber pilot, Hirsch practiced law in Syracuse for many years, and as a photographer earned high praise from his peers. Hirsch said this about his avocation: photographing sports gives a sense of ballet, of fluid movement, of grace, the beauty of an athlete in motion, the tremendous intensity, the concentration, the reality of the emotions. Be sure to see the photographs of Hirsch Green when you visit the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame at Drivers Village. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Sports 26. Our third inductee is Roy Neal. Wilson Park, an acre of blacktop heaven below Interstate 81 near downtown Syracuse. This is where the game began for hundreds of Syracuse kids. The mediocre ones, the good ones, and the true stars of basketball, like our next inductee, Roy Neal. Roy was blessed with plenty of natural talent, and he had the good fortune to be coached by some of the best and live near some of our town's finest basketball venues. There was the Boys Club and coaches like Donnie Fielder, and Madison Junior High, where Coach Harvey Fisher helped Roy develop his skills. After Madison came Central Tech High School, and one of the city's better basketball traditions. Here, young Roy Neal excelled as a sophomore starter for Coach Jack Johnstone, a junior all-city selection, and a senior captain scoring 22 points per game for Coach Manny Breland.
His abilities were that he could, he could face the basket and he put it on the floor, and and he could also go down deep and maneuver down there. And it was an excellent ball handler, and of course, he was a tremendous leaper. He had, he had the long arms, and he had good leaping ability, and all of that combined to make him, a very difficult player to guard.
Roy was all everything that senior year, including first team All New York State. He was named Prep All-America by Coach and Athlete magazine. Roy was invited to play in the 4-state All-Star Tournament in Altamont near Albany. His roommate for that memorable weekend, Dr. J, Julius Erving. Roy was presented the Ormond Spencer Award in 1968 and is proud to be the first of the Grand Street Boys. On to college, New Mexico State. His freshman team went 20-0 as Roy averaged over 20 points per game. On the varsity for the 69-70 season, Roy and his teammates cruised to a 28-1 record and won a ticket to the big dance. Coach Lou Henson's Aggies took 3rd place in the Final Four. The next season saw State go 19-8 with another invitation to the NCAA tournament. Roy pulled an Achilles tendon that season, and the next year a knee injury put an end to his playing career. Roy continues to contribute to the game. He's coached at Central Tech, co-founded the Donnie Fielder League, coached at Fowler and Corcoran, and worked with the SU women. Last year, he was inducted into New Mexico State's Hall of Fame for his play on the winningest team in Aggie history. Roy now teaches 5th grade at Elmwood School. He and his wife Grace Kelly Neal have 4 kids: Damon, Jonquel, Kiera, and Roy II. Roy Neal has plenty of great memories from his basketball career, but he'll never forget those early days at Wilson Park. Proudly, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame inducts Roy Neal, class of 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, Roy Neal.
Unlike Dave, I decided to put my thoughts on paper. Being a deacon in my church, I see my pastor over there. I think he'll agree with me that, because I'll be up here, we'll be up here quite a while. So, giving honor to God through my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I'd like to sincerely thank you, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, and all of you former winners, and the people who were responsible for me being accepted this evening. I'd like to thank my loving wife, Grace, who's been supportive for over 20 years, my loving mother who allowed me to go to the boys club every day of the week. She allowed me to develop my talent. Mrs. Elma Neal, my wife Grace is right here. I'd like for them to hold their hand up so that you can see them. My 2 daughters are here from college. Jonquel, raise your hand, honey. Kiara, and my sister Dorothy. My brother Terry is here, my brother Tom, and I have a host of friends. Some of my high school teammates flew in from Atlanta for this. I'm deeply grateful. I'd like for you guys to stand up very quickly because I got 3 minutes. Craig Caldwell, is he in the house? Alexander Bullock. And it's very, I said to them, I wanted them to be here. I was in Atlanta, the family reunion, and both of those gentlemen live in Atlanta, and I said, I probably would not have accomplished what I had without you guys, because Craig Caldwell played for Hobbs Junior College. His coach at Hobbs Junior College was a guy by the name of Tim Tasker. Am I correct, Craig? And he said he was one of the, they're in the, Hobbs, New Mexico Junior College is in the Basketball Hall of Fame because Hobbs High School is in Basketball Hall of Fame, Guinness Book of Records, because they beat a team, I believe 175, if you believe this, to about 103 in a high school game. And the key was they didn't let you get it past half court, but Craig was such a spoon dishing the ball off that the coach said that he never saw a passer who passed as well as Craig. His son is here, T. Caldwell, hold your hand up, their father, who many of you know, Pee Wee Caldwell, Lemoyne great, was a ball player. And getting back to my other teammate, Alexander Bullock, was a defensive player. So if Craig was the passer and Alexander was the defender, what do you think my role was? So it's great to have them here going to the next level, and I'm going to come back. I compared them with Jimmy Collins and Charlie Crist, both of whom played in the NBA. Jimmy, we all know, a local. Charlie Crist, some of you may not know, but he was 5'7", and he dunked the ball at 5'7", and we called him Mighty Mouse. He was tremendous. He played for the Atlanta Hawks over 7 or 8 seasons, and he was fantastic. But one thing I noticed about him, they did not pass that ball. They didn't give up the rock. We won games, but they weren't like my high school teammates here. And I always, when I see these guys, I always share with them that I was very grateful for them not being gutters, giving the rock to who they were supposed to have given it to. But getting back, there's a lot of young people or a lot of old people now who probably, you should probably know their names because they could very well be here. People that I played against growing up, my mentor Billy Owens is here. Bill Pride, Orman Spencer, Tukey Chisholm, Joe Reddick, Ken Lewis, Jesse Dowdell, Chris Cease, Craig Caldwell T here, Billy McBride, who we all know played many years at Central, and Central football teams weren't all that great, but I can recall Billy McBride when I came home from college reading where he always ran a touchdown back no matter how bad Central got beat. We didn't have a great great football team, but he always ran one back. He ended up playing collegiately for Tennessee State, and he went on to play up in Canada for I don't know how many years. He's presently the coach at Amherst College. He coaches women, and he also coaches football now. Roosevelt Pony Bullock, Ronnie Leggett, Curtis Taylor, Steve Wright. These are just some names that I just wanted to throw in. I rub shoulders with most of these people, and to be here after naming those names, it's truly a blessing for me to be here. My sister Dorothy, which I mentioned, Terry, my brother Terry, I wanted to give him special mention because outside of sports, probably the greatest feeling that I had prior to tonight was probably meeting with him, Joe Godley, who we all know is Joe in the house. Okay, we collaborated and we came up and we founded the Donnie Fielder basketball tournament. For those of you who don't know, Donnie Fielder was so instrumental in probably making it possible for guys like myself to accomplish the feats or rise to the levels athletically that we ultimately attained. And he died in 1980 of cancer, and to me he was special. He was like, me being a deacon, a spiritual man. I found out after he had died that I came here at 11 years old. I was in 1961 Donnie Fielder was grown. He came here in 1960. So when I came, everything was in place to develop the talent that I ultimately, reached in sports. And when I found out he had cancer, malignant cancer, we all got together. My brother Terry, who was a great basketball player at Florida A&M, I'm going to give you your props. In high school, Central Tech won a championship. Many people compare him with me, but I tell them all the time that you don't compare a forward with a guard. If you know sports, you compare a point with a point, a two guard with a two guard, a three with a three, a four, and a five with a five. Now, but I will say this, that when we played at Wilson Park, when he came of age, that guys like Jimmy Collins and you sports fans that's here know, we did not see guards that year. Somehow at Wilson Park, we didn't see guards playing full court. Somewhere they disappeared. They didn't want to be embarrassing. I'm not just saying this because he's my brother. And going on, Donnie Fielder is responsible for me developing into and I'm sure Terry and everybody here that knew him will attest to this. He had the type of personality that he was very humble. He had he spent a lot of time with kids. He had a Camp Zerby camp located, I guess, 50 miles away. He and his wife would live out there. Joe and most of these young fellows here got a chance to visit. And when we found out he had cancer, we went and started the Donnie Fielder Basketball League. And that, to me, was something that wasn't something that we stumbled upon. It was in the cards before we even played. So when I got hurt, my last year, the first day of practice, it dawned on me, you're wondering why after all these years you've been so successful that life just doesn't go the course that you want it to go. Well, it dawned on me then that maybe God has something more important for me to do. And at that point in my life, I started searching. I was very sad because I was in the hospital on the 4th of July, knee surgery, and I looked in the paper. That's the time during the pro draft. All the players who came out with me, they went on and made big money. Most importantly, they did something that they loved to do. They played their game. And with me, I had to find it. And after, when we started at Donnie Fielder in 1980, I realized that this was my calling. This is the thing that I came back to Syracuse, because if you go down to Pioneer Homes, today you have in that area, that's a high crime area, all in the inner city, and kids need. One thing I found out this last summer, that if you get a group of teenagers together and you have something that they want to do, they don't get in trouble, and I've witnessed that. We had over 250 kids together, teenagers, not by choice. And after we got through doing the things that we had planned, we didn't have a single incident. So we knew that the Donnie Fielder basketball tournament was something special because it brought a lot of inner city kids together, and at that time, kids were still hitting each other with sticks. And we know what kind of communities we have now. We have children we're living during times where kids are beating their parents or killing their parents, all kind of unthinkable things that you and I growing up that we just didn't envision. So we knew with the Donnie Fielder that was a way of keeping kids out of trouble. So that was the big special, and it's been going on for 25 years. This summer I didn't go over there not one day. And I'm sure the people who do it say, hey, he's getting a lot, he's reaping in a lot of recognition for doing it. He doesn't even come out here, but it's great after spending all the time, because I gave 7 dedicated years of working with young people that you know that somebody else has picked up the torch. Because if we're going to have a greater Syracuse, if we're going to build the type of Syracuse that we talked about, that we read about in the news, that you and I dream about, then it's going to take every person, man, woman, and child, to have a vision, to have a dream, and work toward that vision and dream. And I close by saying, if I try to tell young people, I teach school, I've been teaching 30 years. I try to tell young people, the one thing, these things, if you have hurdles in your way, go under them, go around them. Whatever it takes, overcome them. Look at life from a very positive aspect. The glass is half full, it's never half empty. The darkest hour is just before dawn. That's the darkest hour. So even though you feel like quitting, if you hang in there, you'll find that light comes, and with that light, you can be successful. Also, get a skill. Go to Central Tech, BOCES, any of these trade schools. Everybody can, college isn't for everybody, but you got to have a skill. If you don't have a skill, then we find that we can't market your service. And the worst thing in the world is have a nation of people, a city of people that's uneducated. And we have Syracuse University, who I'm taking a class presently, right up on the hill. But yet down the hill, we got some people, or we have a lot of children who have given up hope. So we got to, whatever it takes, we ask them to keep hope alive. And just look at myself. I came from pioneer homes. And my brother Terry, I got my sister Dorothy, my brother Tom. We came from pioneer homes, and none of us ever got in trouble, I mean, with the law, per se. We never got in trouble. I had a mother over here that didn't play that. I didn't go that direction, but, you know, I just want to thank the committee and everybody here for inducting me, and hopefully that we can all leave here and think about that vision. If we're going to build the type of Syracuse that we want, it's going to take everybody in Syracuse. It's not going to take a few people. It's going to take everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome to the hall. Thank you. Who's up on TV? Congratulations.
Very nicely done, Roy. The 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Sports 26. Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Sports 26. Our next inductee, Joe Papaleo. As of tonight, 149 sports figures have been inducted into our Hall of Fame. Our honorees have represented nearly every sport, from football, basketball, and baseball to team handball, water skiing, and horseshoes. But until this evening, no one has represented the world's most popular sport, soccer. Let's fix that right now. Meet Joe Papaleo, one of the great goaltenders of the game. In high school, CBA. In college, Syracuse University. And in the professional ranks, Joe became a legend. From 1976 to 78, he was the starting goalie for the Brothers and an all-Central New York selection all 3 years. He was all-New York State his senior year and played in the very first Empire State Games in 1978. On to the Hill, where Joe earned All-America honors and a glittering 0.4 goals against average, as he broke and set records for season wins and shootouts.
As a goalkeeper, he was every field player's dream, just because you had this great security blanket behind you. You felt like no matter how well or poor you defended, you had this guy behind you who was going to, stop the other team from scoring, and it's a tremendous confidence booster to any player who plays in front of a guy like that.
After earning his Bachelor of Arts degree, Joe was a first-round draft pick by the New York Cosmos and the Pittsburgh Spirit. From 1982 to 90, he played in the Major Indoor Soccer League for Pittsburgh, Tacoma, and Dallas. One of his most notable feats was shutting out the San Diego Sockers, their first shutout loss in 8 years. He was named Defensive Player of the Game a dozen times in 1988 and 89, and twice he made the All-Pro team. He was the league's Goalie of the Year in 1990. His career record, 120 wins and 94 losses in the MISL, and 33-9 in the Continental League. Joe retired in 1995 and came home to Syracuse, where he began his career with new process gear. He also coaches his high school alma mater, and since 1995, the Brothers Booters have won 7 Section 3 titles and 2 state championships. He serves as a commentator on Time Warner Sports 26 telecasts of SU soccer games. Joe lives with his wife Maureen, children Lauren, Julianne, and LJ in Manlius. The Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame proudly welcomes Joe Papaleo, class of 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Papaleo.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for electing me to the Hall of Fame. It's an honor to be here with this group of athletes, and growing up in Syracuse and just following the sports and being part of this is just a tremendous, tremendous honor. I think I was asked, did it hit you yet? I don't think it really hit me until I came in and saw some of the great athletes here. And like I said, this class is just a tremendous, I'm very honored to be part of this class. I'd like to start off by thanking my wife, Maureen. It's very difficult, being a soccer player, being an American. Soccer never really took off. In the 80s, we thought it was going to be the sport of the decade. Kids love to play it. Nobody really likes to come and watch it. I think, people ask me still to this day, how's soccer going to make it? Well, when that soccer player that plays high school soccer goes to Penn State on Friday nights, he goes and watches the soccer team play rather than going and watch the football team play on Saturday. We love to play it. It's a difficult thing to want, to go out and support it. I think that I tell my campers every year, you have Syracuse University right up the road. You have Lemoyne College. I mean, you have probably being a little biased here, of course, at Syracuse, but the Big East Conference, which I think is second to none this year. I tell the kids that you're not going to find a better program. Dean Fode's the head coach there, and just the job he's done has been tremendous. My wife Maureen had to put up with me, going to Pittsburgh, going to Seattle, Tacoma for a year. Before Game 7 even took place, I was already packed, ready to leave Seattle. Nothing against Seattle, but it's different. It's not Syracuse. In 1984, Pittsburgh was voted the most livable city. Seattle was voted the most livable city. I just kept on thinking about, will it be possible for me to come home? After spending 7 years in Dallas, it was time to come home. And my wife has always been on my side. No matter what decision when it came to sports and soccer, I got the call on Tuesday in February of '95 to report to New Process Gear on Monday. My coach was on a cruise. I've always told people, I was the player rep at the time, that when I could do better for my family, I would, and a dream come true to be able to come home. And very fortunate to be able to come home to Syracuse. To my kids, I love being around kids. It's just a great feeling. And even growing up, I couldn't wait to be a father. I really could not wait. And every day, since Julianne was born, Lauren and LJ, they've never disappointed me. I've been very fortunate in my kids. I love my family dearly. Thank you for everything. Thank you. And my parents, my father, grew up on the north side. My youth soccer program, we started with this club called the Syracuse Kickers. The late Frank Barbuto started it. Tuesdays and Thursdays would practice at Schiller Park. I tell my kids, I call my kids, some of the kids I coach, that their parents live on the north side. I call them North Siders, because I'm really proud of where I came from, being part of Syracuse. And we used to, Frank put the program together for us to succeed. The amount of kids that have come out of that program that went on to Syracuse University, Columbia University. Tommy Tanner went to NC State, Marcello Vitale, who's still to this day the leading scorer at Syracuse University, all part of that North Side soccer program. Frank passed away a few years ago, but I just wanted to say thank you to Frank for starting youth soccer in Syracuse. And for my father, and for all the dads that carried those goalposts from the garage up to Schiller Park, because there were no goalposts back then. And we put them up and we play games. And it was just a joy, and that's why I began to love the game of soccer. But we played everything on the north side. But my parents have always been there for me. My sister, I've never gone without anything, and they're still here today. And I want to thank you. Thank you very much, Mom, Dad. Thank you. Playing for 12 years, they talked about the CBA, the SU, the part of the program, that really prepared me for college soccer. Professional soccer was this men's soccer team that I played for called Sampson Soccer Club. There were a bunch of really Northsiders again. A lot of them went to Henniger. and they grew up in Italy, moved to Syracuse, and I was fortunate enough to play with them since I was 14 years old. Traveling to Rochester, playing against the Portuguese Americans, German Americans, Italian Americans, and that really prepared me for the next level. When I got to college, seen that, done that, been there, 14 years old playing with men, and they're still there on the north side. I just wanted to personally say thank you to all of them for everything they did for me, to bring me in to understand what was about the passion of the game. And they still have the passion of the game. We still meet down there for coffee, and it's the joy. But I wanted to personally thank them, Sampson Soccer Club, for everything they did for me. Thank you very much. I was fortunate in 1995 to come here. Like I said, I got the call on Tuesday, and Monday I was at New Process Gear. All at once, CBA soccer coaching job became available. Everything fell into place. And I'm very fortunate to be able to coach where I went to school. It is a very special place. Talk about what CBA is all about. A quick story about what sports is about at CBA, and what sometimes people think differently about sports, and what really CBA is all about. My junior year, we ended up 7-5-2. For CBA soccer back in 1978, that was tremendous. I think John Rizzo, one of my teammates there, is here tonight, would say that I think our freshman year we were 0-12-2. So to turn around and beat Henniger twice our junior year, when Henniger was a powerhouse, was a tremendous turnaround. The next year, our coach was gone. We had a different coach. And, being kids, we started putting names down that, like some superstar soccer players like Giorgio Chinaglia, Dino Zoff, all these international superstars, and the coach is calling his name out like they're going to be there. And I'm like, we're in trouble. Wow. After 3 years, I went home, and I told my father, coming home from work, and he just looked at me and said, you don't go to CBA for soccer. That's what CBA is all about, is that we don't go to CBA for soccer. It's about being the whole program, being school, and it's just a special, special place. Very fortunate to be up there for 11 years now. Every kid that I've been involved with, it's never had a problem with the parents. The kids have been fantastic. It's just a very special, special group of kids. I'm honored to be part of the program up there, and hopefully that's where I'll end my career in coaching. It's a special group, and thank you for supporting me tonight, CBA. And the boys are here tonight. Again, I'm very fortunate. As the years gone on, I've been spoiled by the Boyles, the Reversals, all the boys that I've had in the past, the Bobby Hammers, that to this day, not only were they successful off the field, they're successful on the field. They're very good, successful people now. They've gone out, graduated from SU, graduated from, St. Bonaventure, and been very successful. And they still see me. They say, "Hey, Coach, how are you?" And it's a special group. Not just that. I think sometimes kids, they're good players, but it goes hand in hand. Good players, good kids win championships, and it just everything fell into place. And just, and I've been very fortunate. 11 years, not one time that I've had an issue with a player, nothing at all, or a parent. Fortunate to be part of CBA, and I'm just lucky to be there. The part that we talk about, the next step, being a kid from the north side, growing up, going to CBA, following CNY basketball, Central Tech, CBA, big basketball rivalry, and not going to Henniger for soccer, going to CBA, and then off to Syracuse University, where, to me, being a kid from Syracuse, I don't understand why you'd go anywhere else. To me, it's just a super place. I was fortunate enough to have a great family, to be able to drive down Teal Ave, go up the hill, and be at Syracuse University. As far as I'm concerned, I could be 1,000 miles away, and then drive back home and have dinner. It was great. Friday night, go home, have everything all set. My mom would have dinner, my dad would watch some soccer game, then we'd go out with Marcello, have a great time. It was just perfect. And it's one thing, if a message to local high school athletes, that we have such a beautiful place, such a fantastic school right up the hill, that I would not trade one day away from Syracuse for any NCAA championships. That's how fortunate I was to grow up in a city like Syracuse, go off to play at Syracuse University. It was just very, very special to me. After playing, moving back to Fayetteville Manlius, being part of FM Youth Soccer since 1995. Again, a lot of the coaches talking up here, being involved with the youths. It just means so much to be around those kids, those parents. Not only do you become, you're a coach, you're a teacher, but you're also a friend. You're a friend with the parents, the kids. It's a very special time. And again, going back to my wife was very understanding. After work, I head right out and start coaching. Those kids are like my kids. And I just want to thank FM Soccer for their support tonight, CBA, SU, all my friends, and especially local 624 UAW that all the work they do that was able to bring me back home. I left playing pro soccer to come to Syracuse because of the job that I was able to get. And I want to thank them here tonight and thank everyone. And again, congratulations to everybody in the class. It was fantastic. It's an honor to be here and be part of this class. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and congratulations. Our fifth inductee is Frank Randall. Our next inductee to the class of 2005 is the late Frank Randall. Not your run-of-the-mill sports hero or record holder, but a man who had the unique ability to organize people, get projects on track, get it done. Frank came to Syracuse from Canada early after the turn of the 20th century. A boy who enjoyed participating in all sports, he realized at an early age that successful teams and leagues didn't just happen, that it took leadership and hard work to win championships. He married, settled on the north side of the city with his wife Emma, and raised 2 children, Norman and Helen. The times were ripe for a person of Frank Randall's talents. America was in the Depression, and those lucky enough to have jobs worked in factories where the work was hard, the hours long, and recreational opportunities were practically non-existent. In our community, Frank Randall was instrumental in founding and directing many industrial sports leagues, and Syracuse's working man had the company team to cheer for. Frank's career in sports began with these factory teams, and he carefully kept a journal of his activities, a handwritten diary describing his work on a day-by-day basis. The penmanship in the Randall Journal is beautifully unique, and his writing style is interesting and accurate. Frank Randall loved his city's parks, and in 1938, he took a job at the Syracuse Parks Department.
Well, I think what's important for people to know in our entire community is the impact that Frank Randall made on this community way back when he was Commissioner of Parks and Recreation for the city of Syracuse. For instance, he was very instrumental in starting a lot of the youth sports leagues that we see today, whether it was in the form of Little League Baseball, track and field, and sports such as that. We are very proud to carry on Frank's tradition because these are the same programs that we still have in place today at the Parks Department.
This position provided him with a forum from which he could develop numerous programs for city youngsters. One of his projects was the Schiller Park Baseball League, which spread into other parks and was a forerunner of Little League Baseball in Syracuse.
It was a meeting place for all the kids, especially in the north side. They went to Schiller Park. Jack Simone started his baseball as a youngster in Schiller Park. Other people like Babe Testone and Jim Marquardt, a lot of other players that evolved into significant high school players, started out as teenagers in Schiller Park, and that was all generated through the efforts of Frank Randall.
Not only did Frank Randall get kids involved, he did a pretty good job persuading the leaders of the community to support his teams and leagues. His journal tells how the Syracuse Chiefs, the Syracuse newspapers, the Kiwanis, and Optimist clubs all pitched in with time, energy, and money. He passed away in 1970 at the age of 83, a man with a passion for organization and for doing things the right way. Tonight, we welcome into the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame the late Frank Randall, class of 2005. Accepting for his granddaughter, Bunny Allen.
Thank you very much. I'm not much of a speaker, so this is going to be short. I'm going to speak about my grandfather from a granddaughter's perspective. I was very young. I didn't really know all the sports activities that he was involved in. I just knew him as Grandpa. I wasn't aware of his earlier life accomplishments. All I knew about him revolved around his being the superintendent of Schiller Park. I'm a North Sider too. We lived just a short walk from the park, and my friends and I played there almost every day during the summer. And one of the perks to being the granddaughter of the super was if ever a bully started to pick on us, one of my pals would always say, "Do you know who her grandfather is? He is Mr. Randall." And that was the end of the problem. It worked every time. All the kids had tremendous respect for him. Grandpa R and I used to take long walks through the park on Sundays before dinner. We sometimes took food for the birds and the squirrels, and he had a good rapport with animals as well as kids. And he could feed the squirrels by hand, even getting them to perch on his shoulder. Due to his hockey playing in Canada as a young man, he could skate very well. And he taught me how, starting with double runners and progressing to hockey skates and then to figure skating. We spent many Saturdays in the winter skating at the Schiller Park ice rink, and I continued to enjoy the sport as an adult. However, I don't skate anymore. Later on, I became aware of his earlier work in baseball and in the industrial leagues, and of course his involvement in Syracuse Park's baseball leagues. The teams would call the scores in to him, and he would pass them on to the newspapers and the radio, always keeping careful lists of everything. Frequently, he would have visitors at the house to talk sports. I remember Dolph Shays and some of his teammates from the Syracuse Gnats stopping by, as well as members of the SU football team. I only wish that he could have lived to see his two grandsons play football and lacrosse for Vestal High. He would have been busting with pride, as we are of him. Grandpa, I feel you are looking down on this gathering tonight and smiling. Thank you very much, everyone.
On behalf of the Hall of Fame, we want to welcome him into the Hall of Fame. Want to hold it up for us? Congratulations.
Thank you, Bunny. And the 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Sports 26. Welcome back to the 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Sports 26. Our final inductee for the evening and for 2005 is Kathy Urschel. Once you've met Kathy Urschel, you'll know you've just come face to face with courage. Here's a woman who's been sightless since 1985, who lost her hearing 6 years later, and has achieved goals inside and outside the realm of athletics, which only a few very talented and very lucky people can only dream of accomplishing. Academics have played a huge role in Kathy's life. She holds a BS degree in education from Syracuse University, followed by a master's degree in education and rehabilitation counseling. While in college, she was honored by being listed in the Who's Who among students in 1992. Later, she learned the art of relieving pain with massage, and she was a top student at Onondaga School of Therapeutic Massage. She was chosen to deliver the student commencement address and receive the Director's Award. Now let's look at her career as a bicyclist. Her sport is tandem racing. She competes and wins at the sport's highest level, like the 1996 Paralympics, where she earned a silver medal, and the 3,050-mile race across America, in which she became the first disabled female to compete. While training for the 2000 Paralympics in Australia, Kathy was severely injured when her bike crashed at 40 miles an hour. But broken bones became just another minor obstacle. The Urschel spirit prevailed.
You know, she wanted to be the best, and she wanted to be the fastest, and she didn't want to have any qualifiers on it. Kathy never wanted to be the fastest blind cyclist with a cochlear implant on a tandem bicycle. You know, she wanted to be the fastest there was and the best that there was.
In 1990, Kathy was named a Woman of Distinction by the New York State Senate as Senator John DeFrancisco presented the award. Kathy was a Post-Standard Woman of Achievement in 1997 and the recipient of a very special letter. It read in part, "You have triumphed among the world's elite athletes with disabilities and received a fitting reward for your hard work and perseverance. On behalf of all Americans, I salute you." President Bill Clinton signed the letter. Once you get to know Kathy, you realize she is an athlete, a student, a teacher. To her, disability is just a hollow word. She's put her blindness and deafness behind her and continues to be an inspiration to everyone she meets. Kathy Urschel, newest member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Urschel.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you. I am very honored and in awe. I was just speechless when John called me a few months ago. And I want to thank the Greater Syracuse community. And once again, it's not just me that, why I am here. I wanted to start off and just say there's two women that have inspired me along through my journey. One of them, Wilma Rudolph, who, with adverse circumstances in her life and a gold medalist in the late 60s, she had this quote that I have held on to it. She said, "No matter what my accomplishments are, someone helps me along the way." And that is so true. And the other woman in my life, and God bless her, she's in heaven, is my mother, Mother Jane. She taught me how to hitch my wagon to a star. And she really did teach me how to persevere. And God bless her. Now, first of all, when I started into cycling, and I just fell into it. I was bored, and I had completed my degree up to SU, and I wanted to get physical again because I just loved it. And Mike Hopper answered one of my advertisements that I was looking for a cycling pilot. And mind you, this is a tandem, a bike built for two, and I'm not just the backseat rider. I'm the power. Aren't I, Mike? He just does the steering. But no, takes two. And he taught me, with all the other people, teamwork. How important teamwork is, team spirit, participation, and above all, discipline. And we went on to go on with the medals and the records. He, coached me. So then eventually, when I did the race across America, whatever the race was, he was able to get me focused in that particular effort and to win. So I thank Hopper, and Hopper is here. So he can stand up, but I know he won't. I also, when I was going on and I was somewhat going through a transition in my life, I thought maybe I would go on for a doctorate. So I went up to the School of Education up to SU, and I spoke with Dr. Doug Bicklin. And that day, I will never forget, I went out of his office all ready to continue my doctoral education up to SU, and I get a phone call from California. And they said, "Urschel, how would you like to do a transcontinental triathlon across America?" So you know where my heart and my wicked mean pedal power went that year. And so then after that, I continued to advance in different avenues and whatnot and becoming stronger and focused, where I was right up there and getting ready for the Sydney, Australia Games. And at that time, when I had a very, very bad cycling mishap, and here I was, partially paralyzed, laying in the hospital bed with many broken bones, a head injury, and I get a phone call. And I answered it, and he said, "This is Jim Boeheim." And I said, "Are you calling me because I'm an SU alum?" And he laughed. He said, "No, I want you to get well soon and come and speak to my team." I was so honored because during that very critical time of my life where I was either going to win or fail, the community and the media, Bud Poliquin, they were, egging me on. But last but least, I also want to thank the gym. I've been a member there for many years. And when I started, I was right up there as a top female sprinter. But when I had my mishap, and Dennis Duane, a personal fitness and programs, came in, and I remember grabbing his arm and saying, "Am I going to be the same? Am I going to win?" And he hesitated and said, "Sorta." Because I did walk in. I was totally partially paralyzed, and God bless the coaching and the training of Dennis and Hopper. I made it to the top again. And, it's a mind, body, and spirit thing, and working together with the community. Thank you. And above all, as my mother taught me, and it's so true, having faith and really hitching your wagon to the star, and the sky is the limit. So continuing all this with now Patrick, who is now training me now, and I would like to end in a very short note where I would like to thank the Greater Syracuse for this induction. It is quite an honor. And I would like to race again, my love, my passion. I am still training. And Justin, my nephew, who is also in here, he says, "Aunt Kath, this should be your quote. Just one more time, just one more time. I've got to race." And I will, folks. So thank you. This is quite an honor.
Kathy, what an inspiration you are for all of us. The 19th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony will continue on Time Warner Sports 26. The Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame has an exciting new feature thanks to the legacy of the late Hirsch Green and the generosity of his family, who have donated Hirsch's brilliant sports photographs to our new museum. Hirsch, a distinguished Syracuse attorney, took pictures all over the world, animals, people, nature, but his real passion was sports photography. A decorated World War II bomber pilot, Hirsch practiced law in Syracuse for many years, and as a photographer earned high praise from his peers. Hirsch said this about his avocation: "Photographing sports gives a sense of ballet, of fluid movement, of grace, the beauty of an athlete in motion, the tremendous intensity, the concentration, the reality of the emotions." Be sure to see the photographs of Hirsch Green when you visit the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame at Drivers Village. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. How about one more gigantic round of applause for our Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame class of 2005. As we mentioned at the beginning of the evening, and I think you'll all agree, tonight the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame has become even greater. It is now my pleasure to bring to the microphone for our benediction, Monsignor Salmons.
Kathy, you're a tough one to follow. She is. We're setting a record tonight, and it all goes back to our Toastmaster. Everyone else up here gets applause. How about one for Doug? How many years? Okay, good. Let us pray. This is a Irish Gaelic blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your fields, and may the rains also fall softly upon your. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. Amen.
Good. Thank you, Monsignor. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your continued support of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame and for sharing in our celebration. For all of us at Time Warner Sports 26, thank you for joining us, and so long for now. Remember, everyone, there are posters on your way out.
It's called the Hall of Fame. The greats of sports are honored here for the way they played the game. As we count their contributions, we feel so very proud. We won't forget how much they gave and how they pleased the crowd. When the glory years are over and playing days are past, we'll preserve those memories as long as sports fans last. Our torch is lit